Welcome back to the Wine Crush. I'm Laura Lawson, and right now we are going to welcome Jake Lorenzo onto the show. Jake has written Continued Surveillance, Mostly True Stories of the Wine Business, and as Kent is giving such a wonderful entrance to, of course, he wrote The Tequila Lover's Guide to Mexico. So at this point, we'd like to invite Jake. Welcome to the Wine Crush.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I am outstanding. How are you today?
Very good.
I have the luxury of having your little bio in front of me, and it says, Jake Lorenzo writes with power, passion, and a wild sense of humor. Any subject is fair game, and Jake pulls no punches. Opinionated, controversial, and beloved by cellarettes everywhere for speaking the truth. How have you and I not met each other yet, darling?
Where do you live?
Wrong coast. Definitely wrong coast. Well, thank you for being part of the Crush today. Give our listeners an idea of what you do, about your books, which I love, by the way. Absolutely love you. You're one that actually tells it like it is.
Well, I got started over 30 years ago writing these columns because the wine business had no sense of humor whatsoever at that time.
Still doesn't.
And it still doesn't. So I kind of took it upon myself to start writing these columns, talking about what I saw. I was a winemaker and have been for 33 years. The story about Jake goes like this. Jake always wanted to be a high society murder investigator, but here in Sonoma there's no high society. And there's never any murders. So he only made a living by doing crappy detective work for winery owners who thought their spouses were cheating on them. And once he'd get the evidence, they'd try to stiff him, and they wouldn't pay. So he'd take wine in payment, and that's how he became a wine expert.
By being stiff, wouldn't that lead to more murders in Sonoma?
You never know.
Okay. Just checking. It being December for me and having been in the wine business like you entirely too many years to count, I think December is a great time of year for baseball bats and small firearms. So,
yeah, well, it doesn't hurt. And if you're drinking while you're armed, that makes you a very dangerous person.
That applies in a lot of areas where we cover, so just keep that in mind. Well, obviously, you have a great sense of humor and you have a great background when it comes to, one, writing about wine and being able to tell all. Something we've been discussing on the show up until this point is the American wine culture, or really the lack of an American wine culture. What have you encountered, and what are your opinions on this?
On wine culture?
On the fact that we don't have one. You look at France, you look at Spain, you look at Italy, and then you look at the Americans, and sometimes us picking wine is like garanimals picking out a matching outfit.
If you look at these other countries, France and Italy and Spain and places you've named, you have to remember that they have 200-300 more years of experience with wine than we do. So I think you just have to give us a chance and be patient. There's lots and lots of people who love wine, have it on the table, have it with food, enjoy it, but don't worship at the altar. And I think that's where we have to go.
Do you really see? This all started because we got in a debate, and I got caught in the middle of an interesting situation with a whole bunch of have and have-nots. Have-nots not really knowing about wine, haves knowing too much about wine for their own good. And so when you talk about people worshiping at the altar of wine, can that not lead to some really intense, almost detrimental situations in this business?
Absolutely. That right now they seem to have the upper hand as far as public notice. But these things come and go. And I think in the future, for example, all these $100 and $200 Cabernets, they can't give the stuff away now. And prices are coming down. We're in a cycle where it's going to change. And I think this will bring a lot of people into the wine business. So I'm very upbeat about all this. And I drink with regular people, many of whom make wine, but they're certainly not pushy about it or expert about it. They love wine.
No, my favorite winemaker is the one that always say it takes a lot of great beer to make good wine.
Yeah, they credited that quote to me, but it really came from the Kenwood crew in about 1977. The whole crew would crawl into a 5,000-gallon tank that was empty, and they drink Budweiser. And they get loaded and think of things, and that was one of the sayings they came up with there. It
definitely worked. I learned it from Steve Rude, so That does make sense. Well, of course, most importantly, because I do appreciate your sense of humor, and I love the fact you try and bring humor to the wine business, tell our listeners about your new book, where they can find it, and why they absolutely have to have it.
Well, Continued Surveillance is the third in a series where we have taken collection of the columns that I write for various wine magazines. And there's fictional characters that interact with real people. But I make up almost all the stuff myself. But it also goes into various aspects of wine. So as a winemaker and as a person who tries to see the humor in all these different things, Jake Lorenzo comments with this cast of characters and friends, some of whom are real and some of whom are fictional, on all the things that happen in the wine business. These columns cover from about 2004 to 2009. And so anything that happened in the wine business gets commented on, from Robert Mondavi's death to the economy and the election of Obama. And, it's all pretty funny, and the problem is, since I write for wine magazines, somehow, some way, whatever I'm writing about has to end up being about wine.
Well, I understand that. And invariably, because you write for wine magazines and make wine, you can't be as tongue-in-cheek as you'd like to be. Well, I'll get in trouble that way.
You know, they give me an incredible amount of latitude, and in the 5 years, there's only been one column that they rejected, and it was dealing with what to do if you're stopped for a DUI. they felt uncomfortable. Now, that is in the book.
Well, we'll have to buy the book just to check it out. Well, Jake, I am delighted that you have been on the show today. I am hoping at some point I can sweet talk you to the East Coast. You help me guest host one day. I think we'll have a lot of fun, and we'll wear Kent's hand out by the time he gets done editing us.
Yeah, it'd be great. Can we tell them how to get the book?
Absolutely.
They can go to my website at winepatrol.com.
And
that should give them information.
Easy enough. And, of course, for our listeners, we'll have that link on our website as well. Well,
and
Jake,
they can also email me at jake@winepatrol.com.
We can handle that. Well, Jake, thank you for taking time out of your busy December schedule to be part of the Crush, and I promise we'll have you back soon.
Thank you, Laura. Have a good season.
You too.
Bye.
All right, we're going to take a small break right now, but more...